Los Angeles, December 2009. The winter was dry, but the mansion in Hollywood Hills seemed to breathe humidity. It carried a smell that mixed mold with something older, like the walls had absorbed too many secrets over the years. Brittany Murphy hated that house. From the very first day, she had bought the mansion without even visiting it in person. The realtor had told her it once belonged to singer Britney Spears. A house with artistic soul. Brittany would only find out later that Brittany had fled the place in a hurry, claiming bad energy and recurring nightmares that wouldn't stop. It was a modern two-story home, with wide hallways and huge windows. But at night, the glass reflected shadows that seemed to move. The mirrors sometimes showed delayed reflections. Small things. Details. But they slowly eroded her peace of mind. Brittany began spending more time at home, against her will. She didn't feel safe going out. The world had been cruel to her. Tabloids claimed she was on drugs, that she was sick, that she had lost too much weight. And Simon, her husband, said people just wanted to destroy her. She wanted to believe him. But there were moments when Simon didn't seem like himself. His eyes would lose their light for a few seconds, and he whispered behind closed doors. Once, she found him in the basement, standing still, staring at the wall. When she startled him, he simply said, "It's warmer here. They prefer this spot." She laughed nervously, but he didn't laugh back. That night, Brittany woke up at 3:11 a.m. The room was dark, but a faint light was coming from the hallway. A light that shouldn't have been on. She looked to her side. Simon was sleeping deeply, breathing irregularly. There was a dark stain on the collar of his shirt. Sweat. She got up and walked barefoot to the door, feeling the cold floor beneath her. The light came from the bathroom. When she entered, she noticed the bathtub faucet was dripping. Drip, drip, drip. She turned it off. But when she turned around, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror. And next to it, for a split second, a figure. Tall, dark, hunched over as if hanging above her. She spun around, startled. Nothing. Her heart was racing. She was breathing hard, trying to convince herself it was just exhaustion. Stress. But then she noticed the door was slightly ajar. And a voice, very low, whispered her name. Brittany. She ran back to the bedroom, locked the door, and curled up next to the bed, watching Simon sleep as if nothing had happened. The next morning, when she told him everything, Simon showed no surprise. No concern. It's the house. They don't like you anxious. Don't give it attention. They who? Brittany asked. Simon only replied with a calm, tired smile. The ones who came before us. That afternoon, Brittany started writing in a black hardcover notebook. She wrote everything down. Dreams, noises, shadows, temperature changes. She called it her sanity journal, because it was the only way she had to prove to herself she wasn't losing her mind. But each note seemed to feed something. As if the house grew stronger the more she noticed. The energy was heavy, intense. It wouldn't let her breathe. One night, while searching for the cat that had gone missing, Brittany found a locked door in the basement. One that wasn't on the house's floor plan. She tried the handle. Nothing. From inside came the smell of rusted iron and a scratching noise, like something clawing at wood. She ran back upstairs. The next day, Simon locked the basement and threw away the key. Brittany started to feel sick. Weak. She coughed constantly. Broke out in cold sweats. Doctors said it was anemia, a vitamin deficiency. But she knew it was more than that. She knew she was being drained. In the mirror, she looked increasingly pale, more absent, as if the house was absorbing her slowly. And on one of the last pages of her notebook, she wrote with trembling hands, "If I die here, know that it wasn't natural. The house wants something, and I'm just another part of it." Simon Monjack wasn't an ordinary man. Before meeting Brittany, he had already left a trail across Europe. Lawsuits for fraud, promises of screenplays that were never written, investments that vanished overnight. But Brittany loved him, or rather, needed to believe she did. "He protects me," she used to say. But deep down, she no longer knew from what. Simon controlled everything: medication, phone calls, interviews. He claimed doctors were liars, that the paparazzi were trying to drive her insane. He installed cameras throughout the house, supposedly for their safety, but Brittany never had access to the footage. On a foggy late afternoon, she walked into the living room and found Simon napping on the couch. His laptop was unlocked. It was the chance she had been waiting for. She quickly opened the video folder. One file stood out. Downstairs_cam_03_night. Date: November 15th, 3:09 a.m. She hit play. The black and white footage showed the downstairs hallway. For several long seconds, nothing. And then something. A figure. Dark, small, distorted. It seemed to crawl, but cast no shadow. It slowly crossed the hallway and stopped in front of the guest room door. It stared directly at the camera. And then it smiled. The video froze. Terrified, Brittany paused it. Rewound. Played again. But this time, the figure didn't appear. It was as if the footage had been altered, or as if it could only be seen once. Her hands trembled. She closed the laptop. Simon woke up. "What did you see?" he asked, eyes half closed. "Nothing. I just wanted to listen to music." He stared at her for a few seconds too long. Curiosity can kill you, Britt. That night, she chose to sleep in the guest room. She locked the door from the inside. Turned off her phone. She wanted silence. At 2:44 a.m., she was woken by a sound. Dripping. Again. But it wasn't from the bathroom. It was coming from the ceiling. She looked up. The plaster was darkening. Red drops were slowly falling onto the white bedsheet. A metallic smell filled the air. Blood. She screamed. Ran out. Called for Simon. But the house felt empty. When she returned to the room, the ceiling was clean. The sheets untouched. No stains. Nothing. Simon appeared at the top of the stairs. "You need to sleep better. You're hallucinating." But there was something in his eyes. Something cold. Almost satisfied. Days later, Brittany called her mother, Sharon, begging her to come to the house. She said she couldn't take it anymore. That something was wrong with Simon. That she was sure she was being poisoned. Sharon arrived hours later. She found her daughter drained, pale, thin. Her hair was falling out in clumps. Her eyes were sunken, as if she hadn't slept in days. That night, Brittany and her mother slept together. Brittany cried herself to sleep, clutching her black notebook. Before closing her eyes, she whispered, "If anything happens to me, it was him. Or what's with him?" The next morning, she was found collapsed on the bathroom floor. Unconscious. Lips purple. Skin cold. An ambulance was called, but it was too late. Simon cried loudly, theatrically. But he didn't follow Brittany to the hospital. He said she already knew she was going. Hours later, she died. Official cause: acute pneumonia. Severe anemia. Complications from multiple drug intoxication. But no one asked why a healthy 32-year-old woman deteriorated so quickly in a matter of weeks. No one asked why police never investigated the house. Or why Simon initially refused a full autopsy. The house was sealed off. Simon remained in it. 5 months later, he was also found dead. Same bathroom. Same position. Same cause. They called it a cruel coincidence. But some thought differently. A former nurse from the hospital would say, years later, Simon was afraid of something no one could see. And Brittany? She didn't die from pneumonia. She died from fear. And from whatever he was hiding. The notebook was small, black-covered, wrapped in a rough fabric frayed at the edges. Sharon Murphy found it by accident while packing up her daughter's belongings for donation. It was hidden beneath a loose floorboard in the closet, next to a broken necklace and a torn photograph, Brittany as a child, her eyes scribbled out with pen. Sharon opened it with trembling hands. On the first page, in tiny handwriting, Brittany had written, "If someone finds this, read it. And don't stop, even if it starts to sound insane. The truth isn't pretty, but it's the only thing I have left." The following pages were dark entries. Notes about recurring dreams with shadowy figures, sleepless nights, sounds coming from within the walls. They whisper when I think about leaving. I know Simon hears them too, but he pretends not to. Today I saw a shadow sitting on the couch. When I got closer, it smiled with a mouth far too wide. The basement has a door inside the wall. I only saw it when the light blew out and everything went dark. They want me to go in. They whisper, "You've been chosen." Sharon tried to brush it off, but as she read on, she felt watched. The house didn't feel safe. It was as if something was still alive there. The energy was thick, like the air was filled with unspoken voices. Afraid, Sharon handed the notebook to an old family friend, David Lennox, a retired investigative journalist. He had always believed Brittany's death wasn't natural. He was obsessed with the truth, but skeptical of unseen forces. David read the diary over 2 nights. The next morning, he called Sharon. His voice was strange, hesitant. "There are names in here, Sharon. Contacts. An acronym, RHC. This isn't just illusion. Brittany was investigating something." Investigating what? She believed Simon was part of some kind of cult. Something involving sacrifices, ancient symbols, invocations. Sharon was silent. There are descriptions that match old rituals, spiritual cleansing baths, soul transition ceremonies. And she believed they were preparing her. Preparing her for what? To be offered. David promised to turn everything over to a friend at the FBI. But 3 days later, he disappeared. His car was found in an abandoned lot off Highway 101. The engine was still warm. The trunk was open. Inside, traces of blood. Not enough to be fatal. The notebook? Gone. There were no signs of forced entry. No witnesses. The case was never properly investigated. Authorities claimed David had likely gotten lost or fled willingly. But Sharon knew. She felt it. Brittany had uncovered something that wasn't meant to be revealed. Something many had a reason to keep buried. A few weeks later, Sharon received an anonymous envelope at home. Inside, a single page from the diary. A red circle had been drawn around one specific passage. The house isn't haunted. The house is a channel. A portal. They're not trapped here. They come from here. And someone left the door open. At the bottom of the page, in handwriting different from Brittany's, there was a sentence. "It's no longer possible to close the door." Sharon burned the page that night, moved to the countryside, never gave another interview. But in her final social media post, months later, she wrote, "She tried to warn us. No one listened. And now, maybe it's too late." The silence of the house in Hollywood Hills was a heavy veil, but for some, the silence spoke far too loudly. In 2015, nearly 6 years after the deaths of Brittany Murphy and Simon Monjack, a maintenance technician named Marcos received an urgent call to inspect the electrical system of the abandoned mansion. The new owner didn't want any traces left of what had happened there, and Marcos was used to discreet jobs. However, as soon as he arrived, he sensed something strange in the air, a mix of dampness, the smell of mold, and a faint, almost imperceptible trace of rusted iron, like old blood. Marcos was a practical, skeptical man, accustomed to dealing with leaks and old wiring, but something about this house didn't add up. As he walked through the dark hallways, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. He passed empty rooms where the temperature dropped suddenly, even in the summer heat. In the basement, he found something unexpected. A door, camouflaged behind a broken bookshelf, with old locks and deep scratches in the wood. He tried to open it, but it was locked. From the other side came muffled sounds, like whispers or scratching, echoing slowly. Marcos decided to document everything. He installed a hidden camera to film overnight. The next morning, reviewing the footage, he swallowed hard. At 3:12 a.m., a shadow moved silently down the hallway. It had no clear human shape. It seemed wavering, made of black smoke. It passed by the basement door and disappeared behind it. Minutes later, a heavy noise, like a door slowly creaking open. He headed to the basement, now more prepared. The door was slightly ajar, creaking. The smell of iron grew stronger. Inside, nothing visible. only a staircase descending into deep darkness, something not on the house's floor plan. Marcos couldn't go down. He felt an overwhelming pressure on his chest, a cold that seemed to burn his skin. He ran back outside. After the experience, he sought out a local journalist to report what he'd seen, but when they scheduled a meeting, the journalist never showed up. Days later, Marcos learned the journalist had a mysterious accident on the highway with minor injuries, but vanished without a trace. Marcos realized he was dealing with something far bigger than electricity and leaks. Before disappearing himself, he sent a single photo from the camera to a friend, an empty hallway with a blurred reflection on the window glass, a figure seen from behind, looking inside. The caption read just one word: "They're back." Meanwhile, in the neighborhood, rumors began to spread. Nearby residents reported seeing strange lights at the house during the early morning hours. Sounds of footsteps, whispered voices, and doors slamming. One neighbor, who preferred to remain anonymous, said, "That house was never empty. At night, you see shadows moving behind the windows. We avoid going near. There's something there that no one talks about." The mystery of the house remained alive. And maybe what Brittany tried to warn about never really left the place. Because some portals don't close on their own. Oh, ChatGPTs. Months after Marcos's footage surfaced, though never officially released, Brittany's mother, Sharon Murphy, decided to take drastic action. She felt that even far from the house, the past still haunted her. Determined to find answers, she installed a voice recorder in her daughter's bedroom, where Brittany had spent her final days. She wanted to capture any sign, any sound, any message that might explain the unexplainable. The first night was dominated by silence. But on the second, something happened. At 2:37 a.m., the recorder picked up a voice, faint, almost a whisper, repeating several times. "I asked for help. I asked for help. But no one heard. They're back." The voice sounded like Brittany's. It had the tone, the fragility of someone trapped between worlds. Sharon was shocked. She showed the recording to audio experts who confirmed. There is no editing or manipulation. This is a genuine recording. She tried to bring the case to the police, but was met with skepticism. Officers called her superstitious and grieving. Days later, Sharon disappeared from public life. She moved away, cut off phones, vanished from social media. But the mystery of the house persists. Some say that those who dare approach it at night hear whispers at the windows, footsteps in the empty hallway, and the distant echo of a voice asking for help, a voice that belongs to none of the living. Yet the notebook, the recordings, the locked doors all serve as a warning. They're back. And those who hear that last recording might not escape to tell the tale. Epilogue. Brittany Murphy's story is marked by fame, talent, and a premature tragedy. What really happened in her house? Were supernatural forces involved? Or a dark web of manipulation and fear? No one knows for sure. But there is one thing everyone agrees on. Not everything was as it seemed. And sometimes, silence is the loudest scream.